I'm now going to show you how the lab component of the EDC works. So for now I've got us here on the page of a patient on day 1 and you'll see that there's been a couple of requisitions made for some of the samples. So I'll just show you how you confirm that those samples have actually been taken. So of course the first step is to print the label, which you will have done, and then of course that label will be attached onto a sample and you need to verify that that process has taken place. So the way you can do that is by scanning the label that you've attached to your sample with the barcode scanner. If you don't have that, you can also just copy in the unique requisition ID here and click tick. And I'll do that for the other sample as well down there, the whole blood. And you'll see now that both those samples have 2 ticks next to them, which means that you've done the requisition, printed the label, and you've also confirmed that you've attached that label onto the sample. So these 2 now will appear in the lab side of the EDC. So to get into the lab component, click on the home page, click on specimens, and you'll see here now that you've got this requisition page. On here you've got the requisition ID, the subject, the visit, the sample, and the date and time that it was drawn, and you'll see here that there's that requisition ID. So these are the 2 numbers that I've manually entered. They might be numbers that you scanned in with the barcode scanner. So then what you want to do is move along the process to the receive section of the EDC, and what you can do is you can either do 2 steps or 1 step to say you've received or you've received and processed. If you look at the status of my samples at the moment, it says that it's not been received and not been processed. Now the likelihood is you're going to be receiving and processing at the same time. So you tick those 2 requisition IDs, click on receive and process. Now we've got an issue here with a server error, which we've had for a while. We're trying to fix that. But actually if I take you back to requisition, you'll see that in spite of that error, the status on these 2 has actually changed to a green tick, which means that you have confirmed that those samples have been received and that you're going to process them. So what we do there is now we move along to the aliquot section, and you'll see now that you've got the 2 blue ticks here and then all these white ones here, and these are the primary samples, so the whole blood and the CSF, again linked to that subject, and you'll notice that there's a unique aliquot ID, but also within that is the requisition ID within the middle there, and you'll see that for each of those samples, so for whole blood 1, the count goes to 3 because you've got 1 primary sample which you can print a label for, and then you're going to have 2 aliquots that are stored, so you've got the 2 labels there for printing. Similarly with the CSF, because it's going off in quite a few directions, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional labels for the storage of your isolates and your leftover CSF. So let's say that you want to print the labels for those. You simply just tick in these boxes here. You may or may not want to print the primary label, depends if you've already got one attached, but it's there as an option, and then click on print labels, and that will print all of these unique aliquot labels for you. So now what you probably want to do, say that you want to store your isolates, for example, is you're going to pack. You've got your labels that have come out, you've got your aliquot labels, you've attached them, and you might want to create a new box for storage. So your box might be day 1 CSF isolates. You can pick the size of your box, so it's pre-populated with 9 by 9, but if you wanted to add a new type of box you can do that. Each specimen has its own code which we'll share with you, but it's 61 for CSF. Let's say that I'm creating that box today and that this is going to be a storage box, which presumably is actually all of the boxes that you process, and you can just say nothing in here, or you could say this is day 1 isolates. Click on save, and then you've got a new box. So you can edit that, go back in there if you wanted to edit any of the information that you've put in. You can click on manage. Then if you click on manage, what you can do is you can either manually enter in the name of the aliquot, but remember they're very long, or you can scan them, and then that can be a sign that you're adding those into your box. So you can do that, go back to your box. So that's how you can keep track of what it is that you're storing. Each box will have its own name, and you can even print a label for that box as well, so that you can attach that onto the box before you put it into storage. Now you might want to generate a manifest if you're shipping any samples, which works in a very similar way to this. So you create a new manifest and you would say you're shipping on behalf of the Ambition Study, and say, for example, you're sending samples to Botswana, Harvard, you can add in other places, other consignees you're sending them to, and then you could just say this is all the day one CSF isolates. And then that's an open box for storage. Click Save. You can then manage that box, which again, you can print a label for the outside of that box, which is going to have this unique ID here. And you can click on Manage, and that's where you can scan in your samples and then create essentially your manifest for shipping. And that's everything.